Like, he was doing things that were just badass.
That was one of the coolest moments of my life.
I was really scared, but knowing that Dan had the gun, I did have the rifle, like, we would be okay.
All right, guys, welcome to today's show. And on the show with me today, I've got Dusty Montgomery. And Dusty, I think you reached out quite a while ago and you were like, hey, man, are you still looking for guests on the show? Well, at that point, I had like 2 months worth booked out. And I was like, let's connect again. And you're like, hey, it's a good thing we did kind of postpone because now I've got some awesome hunting stories. But I'm excited to hear all about it. I'm going to hear about it for the first time along with the listeners. But first off, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. And I'm glad we waited too, because I wouldn't be able to talk about today like 2 months ago. So
yeah, I've had, I feel like one of the slower hunting seasons that I've ever had, but I've missed out on weeks and weeks. I missed the entire whitetail rut here in Missouri. I think I got out like one morning and maybe 2 hours in the afternoon. And other than that, we've been traveling, which is all right. I mean, there's more hunting seasons ahead, but hearing all the success other people have had, I'm like, oh gosh, I want to be them.
it was my best season on inches of antlers on the ground, but worst as the experience of the rut.
Oh,
I didn't.
okay.
First year, I never heard a grunt. First year, I never seen a chase. But yet, my most successful year.
Dang.
So kind of crazy.
Would you change it? Would you make that split a little bit different to where you still got to see the rutting activity and get a deer on the ground, or are you totally fine with the success?
You know what, I would, because now I got 2 deer to mount, so it's going to be expensive. I'd rather have 1 deer and some awesome experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the immediate success hunts that I've been on, it's bittersweet because you get out there and you didn't really have like that exciting of a hunt. It just happened quickly and then it's done. And I like halfway through a hunt, right? So if you have 10 days to hunt something, I like maybe on day 5 or 6, you've already had a bunch of encounters, a bunch of experiences. You've seen a lot of animals. And then you have actual success where you're getting an animal on the ground versus like day 1. I've been on those hunts and it's just like, this is what we trained for.
Yeah.
This is what we took 2 weeks off for.
Well, you couldn't say it better. My last hunt, I just posted on TikTok. I named it Bittersweet. And we'll get into that. Definitely bittersweet.
Yeah. Before we hop into those stories, why don't you share with listeners how you got involved in the outdoors? Was it something you grew up with? Have you done it all your life, or are you
yeah, my dad introduced me when I was a kid. Back then, I think people around here just kind of hunted to help feed the family. I mean, really, we didn't grow up with a whole lot of money. We weren't poor by no means, but obviously deer meat, squirrel meat, rabbit meat, I mean, all that helped.
Yeah.
So he was always a meat hunter, but for as long as I can remember, I've always been after the rack. I mean, ever since I was a kid, that's all I've talked about.
Yep.
And I thought when I got older, I'd grow out of it, and I just keep getting more into it. I can't get away from it. I mean, it literally runs through my blood. All I think about is whitetail bucks. That's it.
Yeah. Where are you located? What part of the country?
I'm in Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois. Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're in a great spot for sure. Yeah, the whole rack thing. I mean, I grew up and hunting for big bucks. I mean, everybody wanted to shoot a big buck, but it didn't seem like there was that selective harvesting where, you're not shooting something that's 2 years old. You're only shooting 3.5 or 4.5 years old. We just didn't have that. And I would get pumped just when my parents came home with a deer and like they'd hung it. I can't believe they would do this. We had a clothesline and it was just like a 4-inch round tube that was T on each end, and they would hang the deer from those. And looking back, I'm like, I feel like that was way too short to hang a deer on. Like they had to have been dragging on the ground, but they would come home and growing up, I didn't really care what I shot. And then all of a sudden people started talking about the big bucks, the racks. I had a dog. It was a Norwegian elk hound, and it would bring home antlers like randomly. I mean, it was just kind of a free range dog. It ran wherever. We didn't have a collar, didn't have a yard, or didn't have a fence for it. And it would just show up with a chunk of a deer or the head of a deer or the antlers. And I was like, something about that antler in my hand, I was like, oh, this is cool. And they say there's like some weird chemical thing that happens when people hold gold. I feel the same way with the deer antler or any type of antler. I'm like, I don't know why I could just hold on to it forever.
Oh, when it comes to shed hunting, I love finding it. It don't matter what size it is.
Yeah.
Like, just like you said, you get that feeling of finding it. It took hours to find, and it's a trophy no matter what it is.
Yep.
You put work into something, and you got rewarded. I mean, there's no better feeling.
Oh yeah. So you grew up in that setting. Did you start out just gun hunting? Is Illinois a shotgun only everywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Shotgun, muzzleloader, pistol, but no rifles. I mean,
okay.
So yeah, I started out going with my dad, obviously just watching him hunt. And then in 5th grade, I got to start going shotgun hunting by myself. Or not by myself, but with my dad, but shooting for myself.
Yep.
And honestly, it took me 4 years to get my first deer. And it was 8th grade. So I can't shoot a gun. I can shoot a bow better than a gun any day of the week. I missed a lot of deer. So it was actually in 8th grade, I shot my first deer with a bow. It wasn't even with a gun. I've been hunting for 4 years, and my first deer came with a bow.
Nice.
So ever since, I mean, and it wasn't a big buck, when I first started out, I was just kill anything, get some experience, but I was always after a big buck.
Yep. Did that change the way you hunted then? Did you continue to try to shoot with a shotgun, or did you just go full on with bow after that?
Still today, I'll hunt any season there is. I just want to be in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. The only thing that I haven't picked up is muzzleloader hunting. And I think the reason I haven't is because you can always use a lesser method here in Missouri. And so even during muzzleloader season, you can get out with a bow. And yeah. I just love shooting my bow. And I'm like, man, do I want to mess with like jamming powder down the barrel of this thing? Do I want to deal with all that? And then I see the horror stories where there's like the tiniest bit of moisture and it's just like click. I'm like, dude, if I brought a muzzleloader out and scared off the big buck that I've been after, oh, I'd be so upset.
You hit it on the head again. Not only did you talk about bittersweet, you just said archery hunting during muzzleloader season, which is what I did on this last buck.
Nice.
I took the bow during muzzleloader season.
This isn't rehearsed either. I mean, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, nice segue, Dan. You knew all about it. No, I really didn't.
Yeah, you're like leading me into it already.
That's awesome. So why don't we jump into it then? I'm just like anticipating it now. So
well, I mean, we got to go through the first buck to get to that one.
Deal.
So we'll just start out with I had to work till October 15th this year, so I couldn't even get out the first 2 weeks of season. Had surgery over summer. I still got cameras out, but not like I like to. I like to check them, and if I'm not getting anything, move them. Really just wasn't prepared this year. Just couldn't make shooting lanes, didn't have time. I just had to hunt what I had. So I got this piece of property. It's 4 acres. Just picked it up last year. Never put a stand on it last year. Just hung cameras, and that was it. And so this year I got in there right after I was done working. We was working 7 days a week is why I couldn't do anything. Right after that was over, I got in there, got my first stand put up in there. Like I said, it's just a 4 acre woods. Nothing. Nothing. One of those spots you see, you're like, man, that could be it.
Yep.
So I got my stand hung up, put a camera up, checked the camera in a week or so, had a really blurry night picture, but you could tell it was a big buck. I mean, I almost deleted the picture. I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
It was like pictures right at dark where the infrared didn't work, but yet it was too dark to see the deer. But I knew it was big, but I didn't think much of it. And I was talking to my brother-in-law, which they own some property, where I killed a 196 3 years ago.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I had a 198 there this year, but he got shot real early. So I didn't get a chance to hunt him. But so I'm talking to him and he's like, dude, a giant buck just ran across the yard. I'm like, no, what? He's not a hunter. So it's like, what's giant? He's like, dude, He was wide. He was massive. He was everything. So I'm like, all right, next wind I get that's right, I'm gonna go in there. And I got a camera. He's like, he ran up by your camera. He'll be on your camera. So I went in there about 3:30 in the afternoon, pulled the card out of my camera, got up in the tree, was going through photos, and I found the photo. I mean, same day, same time that he said this buck went through, and it wasn't a giant.
Yeah.
So I got this strong west wind. This is Halloween night too. So the rut's just starting to, pick up. I got a strong west wind, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, that 198's killed. This deer ain't near as big as what he talked it to be. I said, I need to get in that new stand on that new property. The wind's perfect. I mean, I can walk with the wind right in my face in this 4-acre woods. I'm like, I just got a hunch, It's like, I need to leave this property. I need to go. Like, no, even though I'm running late, I need to get down and get out of here. So I climbed down. I ran to my truck. My brother-in-law was out in the yard. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I just got a hunch. That's all I got. I just got to go to this other spot. So I get up in the tree and I get settled down. Wind's perfect right in my face. Any deer that comes through there is not going to smell me. And so this is the first time I've hunted the stand. I've had permission to hunt it 2 years, but the first time I've hunted it. And the very first deer I see is a 176-inch 10-pointer.
Oh my gosh.
And I see him out in the field, and he's running into the little 4-acre patch. First thing I do is grab a grunter. He's running. I'm like, I got to get him stopped. He's going to run right through this place.
Yep.
So I grunt him out in the field. I can barely make him out. I can't even see his rack. I can just see a big body. I know it's a big buck. He stops out in the field. So I put the grunter up, grab my bow. I already ranged where he's going to come in the woods, which happened to be just coincidence, lucky.
Yeah.
And he got in there, and I stopped him and shot, heard the shot, knew I hit him, but didn't know where I hit him. Instantly sick.
Yep.
I mean, just he, instead of staying in the woods, he ran out in the open field and took off across the open field. And I was like, that's not a good feeling. So, I mean, I was sick. I didn't know what to do. I got down, went over to the arrow. Arrow was covered in blood. I'm like, all right, this is good. I tracked him about 20 yards where he went out to the field and it was a hard 20-yard track, not very much blood. Didn't know where I hit him. And for the first time ever, I backed out. I mean, I usually try to trail a deer right away. I want to get my eyes on him. So first time ever, I just backed out, called a guy that's got a dog. This guy is very successful. He's on Facebook. Always seeing he's tracking this deer, always. So I'm like, if this deer's dead, this is the way it's going to be, I got a standing cornfield 200 yards in the direction that deer went.
Ooh.
And 2 waterways in another direction he could go. I'm like, well, if he's hit good, he's going to go to a waterway or cornfield, standing corn. Well, to kind of speed up the story, get the dog there the next day, he didn't go to either one. He didn't go to the waterway. He didn't go to standing corn. He ran across the open field about 500 yards. I was like, that just made me more sick.
Yeah.
No way a deer hurt very bad would do that.
Just out in the open the whole time.
Yep. So the night before, I got permission on all the neighboring properties where I thought he was going. The standing corn, the waterways. Even got one neighbor hunter, involved in case they went on the property that he hunted. He knew the deer. And the direction he went, no one expected. And that was the one guy I did not call to get permission to track this deer. So when we get over there, it's actually right on the property line. He's running the property line. So like if the deer goes left, it's on the guy to get permission to be on.
Yeah.
Because it stays on the property that I'm on. So we send the dog in there by itself. I don't go in. The other hunter don't go in, just the guy and the dog. They go in, dog goes right, which is the property I can be on. So, started out pretty good. He gets in the woods and just loses scent.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
he tracked this deer across that field in 5 minutes. We get to the woods and it's just circling, and circling. Ends up coming up on a gut pile, a fresh gut pile.
Oh gosh.
Like, dude, I don't, and then, we meet back out in the field and he's like, He's like, I don't know, dude. He's like, we lost scent. He's like, that gut pile's fresh. He's like, what time did you shoot the deer? I'm like, well, it was like 4:30, and this is before time change. So, there's still an hour and a half left of daylight.
Yep.
They're like, man, there's a good chance, this is your deer. He's dead. I mean, he ran over here and got shot again. He's like, there was no drag marks.
Dude, I could throw up right now just hearing this. Oh my gosh.
When I went to bed that night, I told myself, don't get your hopes up. Because if you get your hopes up, you're going to be let down even more.
Yeah.
So we just decided that was it. I mean, fresh gut pile, truck tracks right to the gut pile, and there was a cell cam right over the gut pile. So we don't want to be in here on somebody's camera and ruin any more hunting. Like this got to be it.
Yep.
So, I went home. We all left. I was sick. Wasn't expecting much, but I was like, I'll just check the cameras in a couple of weeks and see if I knew what deer it was. He had a giant kicker off his G2. So I mean, very easy to tell. And when I checked the trail camera after hunting that day, I had like 10 pictures of him that morning.
Oh, okay.
So I knew what deer he was after checking the camera after I shot him. So speed up from a frustrating season, first shotgun season. I didn't hunt but a couple hours Friday morning, came home, and I'm actually living with my mom right now. So we're in the process of building a house, and she's got some hunters there around her house, and they had shot some deer. I'm like, I'll just go introduce myself. Kind of like you said, you like to talk to hunters.
Yeah.
So I'll go introduce myself. They killed some deer, see what they killed, and just start conversation. Well, we get to talk, and they're talking about all the deer they killed. And they're like, dude, we found this giant buck 3 weeks ago on our lease property. I'm like, your lease property? I'm like, I didn't even know they leased property. I just knew they owned ground right there by my mom's.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, where's that lease property at? They're like, oh, it's back here. And they're showing me on Google. I'm like, that's the property that I couldn't get permission to walk on. And he's like, yeah, we found it. I'm like, well, did it have a kicker on its G2? He's like, no, man, I don't think so. He's like, I got pictures of it. And they get out pictures and like, oh man, it does have a kicker off its G2. I'm like, dude, I shot that deer Halloween night. They're like, well, we found it November 2nd and he was fresh. I was like, dude, that's my deer. And like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, it's crazy. And then now I'm thinking, oh, are they going to give me this deer? I'm thinking what do I do, And so they're he instantly says, I'll bring it to you tonight. I'm like, it's just that. I was like, no way, man. It's like that easy,
Yeah.
Of course, I explained to him, like, dude, I found your gut pile. Like, oh yeah, we shot a buck October 30th. He's like, that was your gut pile you found. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, is that your cell camera? And they're like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, well, to prove I was in there, you should have a picture of the dog that I used to track your deer or track my deer.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, the batteries have been dead in that forever. I was like, I'm like, well, at least I can tell you I know where your cell cam's at. We were in there tracking this deer.
Yeah.
And I showed him the trail cam pictures. Obviously, a big deer like that, you can match up everything pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, and they're showing me on Google they found this deer, and where we stopped on the edge of the field and just let the dog go in by itself, the deer was only 30 yards in the woods.
Oh gosh, of course.
The dog went right, and the deer just veered left just a little bit. I was like, you got to be kidding me, So a couple lessons I learned, is I thought I was doing everything right, backing out, coming in the next day, got a dog, The one thing I did wrong is I put 100% trust in that dog.
Yeah.
I didn't scan anything with my eyes. Everybody was watching the dog. I think you get kind of complacent on that, where you should still be kind of gridiron searching too. And I didn't do that. I just have seen all the success stories that this dog had done. So I just trusted it,
Yep.
So, kind of lesson learned there. But yeah,
Well,
it was crazy.
That's awesome that they recovered him, then gave him back to you. Did you find out afterwards where he was hit?
Yes, and it was a good shot. I mean, I wish I could show you a picture. Yeah, I mean, it looks like. I mean, if I were to send you the picture, it looks like I took out the heart.
Yeah.
On the exit side. So the inner side, it looks like. I mean, would it look like it hit the lungs?
Yep.
So, I mean, I called the guy at the dog. I said, "Hey, I found my deer." I said, and he was just confused. I mean, he didn't know what to say. He apologized and stuff like that. But I was just like, I mean, we couldn't believe. I don't know if the gut pile threw off the dog.
Yeah.
Like if that was a stronger smell than my injured deer. So that's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me. I don't have a ton of experience with deer and dogs for tracking, but I know there are certain things that can throw them off, but for the most part, like each deer has an individual smell and the dogs can pick up on that. But I think what could happen is, if they had just drug a deer to where the gut pile was, or from there back to their truck, and the dog hit that, that's a strong smell. Like that's blood, that's whatever internal fluids. And so it definitely could have just thrown it off enough. And
well, also think, that dog, when he finds a deer, there's probably blood or somebody guts it right beside the dog. He's probably like, "Hey, found your deer. I'm done."
yeah,
I think that's why the dog gave up so easy. Cause he's like, "Hey, I did my job, let's move on."
yep. Yeah. And I mean, it's also possible that earlier on in the track, he could have got on the other deer, like after they had shot the deer, wherever it ended up running to where you found the gut pile, it could have just crossed that path and picked that up and not been following your deer from, 100 yards before. But either way, man, I'm glad it worked out. Did they cape it? Was it?
No. See, so since they found it on their lease, and there's really, like I say, he ran across a 500-yard field to get to their lease. They thought someone had poached the deer,
Okay.
Which I don't know why anybody would poach a deer, not at least take something from it.
Yeah.
But that's just what they thought. I mean, we didn't go into great detail about it, but they just cut off the head. He was going to European mount it, finding it on their lease and everything. So, but he hadn't buried it or nothing yet. So, he brought me the head. And I called game warden, and it was gun season, and I shot this deer with a bow. I'm like, how do I tag this thing with a bow tag during gun season? And he's like, "What do you mean?" So I shot this deer Halloween night, and I just figured out the neighbors found it. And I just got it. This is 3.5 weeks later. They're like, "Well, so you didn't get any meat off of it, right?" And I said, "No, I didn't get any meat off of it." They're like, "Well, you're not going to tag it. We'll come in, we'll call it in, we'll give you a salvage tag." So they didn't even make me burn a tag. They just went ahead and the game warden came to the house. He checked it in like you would, count the points, took some measurements, and tagged it, and on his way he went. But
Dang.
so it was just crazy. I learned so many different things just from that one hunt.
Yeah. Is Illinois normally a $1 state?
No, we're $2.
Oh, okay. So at that point, you could technically still shoot $2.
I could, yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I don't think I've ever heard of a case where the game warden or DNR or whatever agency it is lets you just burn. Normally, when that happens, I've heard of them just taking the whole deer, or they make you burn your tag and you get to keep whatever's left of the deer.
Yeah.
But the only time that I've heard where they don't make you burn a tag is if it's like a roadkill situation. Yeah. So that's crazy, man. That's awesome though.
I actually called the sheriff first because I knew who he was, and I explained to him the store, and he's like, "Oh no," he's like, "Definitely don't put your tag on it." He's like, he told me, "Hold on to it and I'll give you a salvage tag at the end of the season." I was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to just hold on to a 176-inch deer and wait that long."
Yeah.
So then I started texting buddies. I said, "Hey, what's game warden's number? Give me a game warden. I want to do this right. I mean, it's my second biggest buck. I'm not going to
to have that taken away just because, you're trying to prove the story and they find you with it without a tag. Oh gosh.
Yeah. But no, I called game ward and I explained it to him. And I mean, and like I said, my words were, how do I tag this with my bow tag? It's gun season. He's like, you won't. He's like, I'll just bring you a salvage tag. So, I mean, I didn't even know you could do that. He's the one that, he mentioned it. Like I said, and he even said, he's like, we're too busy right now being gun season. We won't be there till next week. He's like, call me Wednesday. And that's right before Thanksgiving. He's like, we'll come out there then. So I called him Wednesday and gave him my address. And he was there in 20 minutes, and checked it in. So, yeah, I'm glad I did everything right. And he's like, here's the number you'll give the taxidermist and all this. I mean, he gave me everything I needed. So,
Yeah. Are you just going to have a Euro done of it, or are you going to do a shoulder mount and get like a different cape for it? So
the original plan was get a different cape and get it mounted, but that brings us to the next story. I want to get it mounted, just for one, everybody's full. I don't know about taxidermists over there, but all the taxidermists are full around here. You can't get into it. And then if you want to get in, you're overpay because a lot of people have raised their prices.
Yep.
So I don't know yet. I mean, it's a 176-inch deer. Would you mount? I mean,
100%. If I shot a 156-inch deer, I'd be mounting it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll eventually mount it. It may not be this year. It might be in the future. I kill a 140 or 150-inch mature buck with a good cape, and do that. But eventually he's going to end up on the wall for sure.
Yeah. That's the nice thing is if you just get it Euro'd right now, you can always do that way down the road.
Yeah. And honestly, it's actually something I'm looking into to do as a hobby to start.
Oh yeah.
Tax. So it might be something I can do myself, in a couple of years.
Yeah. I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to things like that I would never finish a deer. Like I've thought about it. I'm like, man, that looks really cool. You figure out what mold you want for it or the form you want for it. And then I see people putting like all the veins and little water droplets on the mouth. And I'm like, that looks cool. I mean, it's an art form.
Oh yeah.
And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I would never do anything else. Like I wouldn't have time for anything else because I'd be so meticulous and I just don't have time for that hobby.
Well, what I thought about was mounting maybe 10 to 15 other people's deer than pay it someone else to do mine.
There you go. That's a good idea. You just do it to pay for yours.
Yeah, just do it to pay for mine. And I got, like I said, when I say I'm all about antlers, obviously I eat the meat. I eat deer.
Yeah.
But like I'm obsessed with just antlers. I mean, I got sheds that I'd like to mount. I find dead heads during shed season. I'd like to get them out. I got like 25 deer I want to put on the wall. I don't want to pay.
I've got one deer that I did a shoulder mount with. Everything else is Euro'd. And I was, I don't know if it was on like Instagram or what, but I saw inside of Steve Ranilla's house, he's got like this big black shelf, like an open face shelf. And all the shelves are different size, like rectangles or squares or whatever. And he's just got European mounts in each little cubby. And I was like, dude, that is the coolest thing. I want a full wall of just that. I just, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on here, but I just went and reorganized our guys' night area. We get together every Thursday night and hang out. And I brought, excuse me, I brought all of my stuff over there because we're moving out of our place. And so I just like went through and redid the whole area. And I'm like, there's something about having like a rack room, or like a wall of success somewhere. I don't know. I've heard it explained a lot. Like it's all about the memories. You know what I mean? Like you're so proud of it. And every time you look at it, like you'll never look at that deer, that 176-incher without all of these different emotions and memories and visuals coming to mind.
Oh yeah. I mean, my wife, she's like, don't you have enough? Because I don't know, I probably have 10 deer mounted now. She's like, and we're getting ready to build this new house. She's like, only 3 of them's going in the house. Top 3. But yeah, exactly. You say when you look at that deer, I mean, you think about it, it's like, I want to spend $500 to mount it. But there again, when you look at that deer, it gives you a little bit of happiness,
Oh yeah.
Who wouldn't pay $500 for a little bit of happiness here and there? So yeah, I think you do have to get it mounted to look back at it.
Yeah, something that you're going to be able to look back on for years. And then, you know, you're going to tell future generations the story of it, and someone's going to end up with it, putting it in a hunting lodge or somewhere like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Dusty shot that one back in 2021, you know.
Yeah.
I love it. I've bought one mount in my life, and it wasn't like a deer that I shot. I was at a thrift store, and they had this deer that was mounted on the wall, and it had like a $15 price tag on it, and it was from like the 1930s probably. I mean, it was like the worst mount I've ever seen. The eyes were all bugged out. I'm pretty sure they used like goat eyes in it or something. And I'm like, man, it would just be cool to have a property at some point where, you know, it's the family hunting lodge or the deer camp, and 5 generations from now, I've still got a deer on the wall there after I'm dead and gone.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Go
let's
ahead.
hear about this second part of your hunting season.
Oh man. So I actually ended up killing another buck since I didn't have to waste the tag. I ended up killing one smaller buck out of frustration. Like I said, I had a frustrating season. So I did burn a tag on that. And it is going to get Euro mounted. But it is a nice deer, 140-inch 10-point. But I mean, I let my feelings get to me on that one. You know, I heard a neighbor shot, you know, a nice 3.5-year-old I was watching. You know, he's probably 140, 150-inch 10-point. That was just going to be a giant someday. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just let it get to me, and I shouldn't. But anyway, so really only got one tag left. But some people are going to frown upon, even though I got a salvage tag for that big one, they're going to frown upon if I kill another one.
Yeah.
So I'm actually winding down. Our season don't go out till like 3rd week of January.
Okay.
I usually hunt till that very last day, until I'm tagged out, which I've only tagged out twice maybe, besides this year. So I got this deer I started following last year. I guessed him to be 3.5, about 150-inch 10-point, possibly could be 4.5. And then I was like, man, that's a deer I want to shoot in the future. Like, I want to start getting to know this deer. Well, this summer I started getting his trail cam pictures, and he exploded. I'm like, man, that is a giant. Like, we're talking trail cam pictures make him look like a 180-inch 10-point. Just
jeez.
Wide, tall, massive. I mean, you just can't get anything. I mean, it's just picture perfect. I'm like, man, I'll never see that deer. You know, I don't have no big leases. I don't own any big pieces of ground.
Yep.
A lot of my hunting, you know, is go to the neighbor, knock on the door. Can I hunt? You know, yes or no.
Yep.
If they let me, I try to, you know, I've never paid for leasing, but I'll take them an apple pie once a year.
Yep.
Give them some deer meat, you know, try to stay friendly. So I'm like, where I'm getting pictures of this deer, it's a fence row where he's traveling mostly at night, and he's eating out of the beans in the summer. You know, I'm getting a lot of velvet pics, but when season starts, he disappears.
Yep.
Well, this year I picked up another piece of property about a half mile away. I'm like, man, he could be going this way. You know, there's a chance. You know, it's only a half mile. I'm like, this could be the spot he's going to. So, you know, I get my cameras up, put a stand up there. Really didn't hunt it much. Just checking the cameras periodically. And I get a daytime picture of him the day after Thanksgiving. And I'm like, and it's daylight picture, you know, it's 4:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm like, man, this is where this deer's going, you know, after summer, after he sheds velvet. I'm like, this is where he's going. And I had it in my mind that, you know, I'm pretty well done hunting this year. Getting ready to build a house, getting ready to get busy. Like I said before, my deer stands were not ready this year because of work and surgery. I'm like, I could start working on deer stands now and get ready for next year, you know.
Yep.
I just gotta keep tabs on this deer, make sure he stays alive. So the other day I was like, you know, I'm gonna go out one last time, because I think the barometric pressure was like 30.4. I'm like, man, that's pretty high.
Yep.
You know, Deer ought to be moving. I was like, I just want to go sit in the stand. I've not been in this woods more than 2 or 3 times. Like, I'm going to sit in the stand, look at trees maybe for possible deer stands next year, do some ranging, see what I got to clear out for shooting lanes next year. And I got 2 cameras right by that stand. I'm like, I'll check those cameras, make sure this deer's still alive. So I get in there, and I've been fighting a cold too myself for quite a while. And I get up in the stand, I start coughing. I mean, uncontrollable. You know, and you try to hold a cough in, it just makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this is stupid. I'm like, I ain't doing this spot any favors. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I ought to get down, check the cameras, and just get out of here. So about the time I think that, here comes a little 4-pointer. And he's moseying through there. I'm like, well, that coughing didn't scare him. I mean, there's only an hour left of daylight. I could probably make it the rest of the time. So I'm sitting there, and I hear some leaves moving. I look, I don't really see nothing. And, you know, it could be a squirrel, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It could have been the wind. It wasn't distinctive. So I'm just sitting there, and I hear some leaves again, and I was just like, well, that's got to be something. So I look up again. There's a doe about 30 yards. I'm like, all right, here comes some more deer. You know, this be interesting. This is what I've been waiting for. You know, I just want to hunt where I get some close encounters and just watch deer. It's what I love to do.
Yep.
Well, I look back behind her, and I just see movement. I see one movement's got a set of rack on it. So I get my binos up, and I instantly know this deer. You know, it's what looks like a 180-inch 10-point. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I've told everybody I've talked to, I will not shoot this deer unless it's a 20-yard chip shot. I just won't. You know, I got the one with the salvage tag, and I got the smaller one out of frustration. And this is my last time. You know, I actually passed this deer during gun season at 100 yards because I didn't want to take. I don't want to take any risk. You know.
Yep.
Well, he's hanging out about 50 yards, and this doe's still hot. I mean, this is just Sunday, so the 13th, I think it was, and this doe's hot still. He's staying downwind of her about 40 yards, so she's at 10 yards, and he's about 50. I'm like, all right, you know, I'm not. I mean, he's out in the wide open too. I'm like, I could shoot that, but I'm not going to. I won't.
Yeah.
I'm not taking any chances. It ain't worth it. So she moses by me at 10 yards, and he's trailing her behind her and out about 40, 50 yards. Well, I see some more movement behind him. There's more bucks coming. And honestly, I think another one was another shooter. I'd never put my binoculars on him because I didn't want to take my eyes off this deer. You know, I'm like, I know this deer. This is a deer I've dreamed of. This is a deer I never thought I'd ever see in person. Like, everything's coming true, except not at that chip shot mark. I'm like, and at this time, I'm like, I'm gonna let this deer walk, you know, because the whole reason of getting in that stand was just to prepare for next year.
You weren't thinking about a shot opportunity at that point.
No, I took and to tell you, I took one arrow. I mean, I wasn't prepared at all. Yep. I just, you know, I'm like, I don't know, it's just dream come true, I guess. So anyway, he's moseying by me, and all of a sudden these little bucks run up on that doe. Well, that pissed him off. And he, instead of going by me 40, 50 yards, he turns right to me where the little bucks are.
Oh my gosh.
Closes the distance to 20 yards. So I'm like, oh my God, like, you ain't gonna pass this deer 20 yards. You know, I'm thinking this deer's a 4.5-year-old, and I'm trying to set my bars higher. And I'm like, I wanted to kill this deer next year. That was my goal. But it's like, he could get hit by a car. You know, it's muzzleloader season, and I'm hunting with a bow. You know, he can get shot with a gun today, you know, if he goes another 200 yards to the neighboring property.
Yep.
So I'm just like, at that time, it's like, I got to shoot him, you know. I said I'd shoot him. If I got a 20-yard chip shot, I was going to shoot him. Well, I couldn't stop him at 20. I bat at him a couple times, and he didn't stop till about 30. It was that perfect quarter-and-away shot. Seen the arrow hit him. Perfect, looked like a perfect shot. He ran about 50 yards and stopped and just stood there and stood there and stood there. I'm just like, well, I mean, is he going to go down? Like, he's not moving. So I'm like, heck, I'll grab the video camera and start recording him, you know?
Yep.
You know, my goal is to shoot one on film, but you know, I'm not to that level yet. So I'm like, I'll grab the camera and film the after shot. So I get the camera on him, and as soon as I hit record, he starts to go down. So I'm like, all right, you know, so I packed my stuff up, got everything in my backpack, took my time, climbed down my stand, and you'll see the video on TikTok. You go look at my TikTok page is at Monty D20.
Okay.
I took a video. I've always wanted to video myself walking up to a monster buck. So I took a video of the walk up to him. Got up there and he was actually still alive. So I was kind of depressed. I don't ever want to see an animal suffer.
Yeah.
And like I said, I took one arrow. Wasn't planning on anything happening like that. So I just kind of stood there for about 5.
So he was alive, but on the ground.
Oh yeah, he couldn't get up.
Yeah.
So I didn't get up. I mean, his eyes were twitching. His neck was just barely off the ground. So I said a quick prayer. I asked God, I said, hey, God, you know, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this harvest, but please, you know, please take the suffering out of this animal.
Yep.
So after I got done saying my prayer, I called my brother-in-law and I said, hey, can you come help me drag out this deer? And he's like, well, I got to work tonight. I can't. The crazy thing was when I called my brother-in-law, I had my phone on speaker. When that first ring went off, that deer jumped up and bolted.
Oh no.
I mean, out of sight. I had stood there and took pictures of that deer for 10 minutes. And I couldn't believe it. I was talking to my brother-in-law. I'm like, dude, my deer he's gone. I'm like, I already sent him pictures. He's like, the deer you just sent me pictures of? I'm like, yeah, he's gone. So I'm like, I'm confused. I'm like, oh, what do I do? You know, I'm like, do I back out again and try to get a dog and recover another deer? Or what do I do? So I called my father-in-law up. He's like, dude, he's like, I'd go where you last seen him. He's like, I would not take my eyes off that deer if anything possible.
Yep.
He's like, that deer's dead. He's got to be dead. He didn't lay there for 15 minutes, almost dead.
Was he? Sorry, a little clarification. When he was on the ground, was he like on his side, or was he like just in a bedded down position?
He was on at one time. I took a picture. He was on his side, and the rack was on the ground.
Oh dang, yeah. So I mean, you just think like dead deer for sure.
Oh yeah, if you look at the TikTok video I posted, he's laying on the ground with his head just tilted over, not moving at all. It wasn't until I got real close to him I could barely, you know, and even his breaths were like a breath every 20 seconds. You know, It wasn't like breathing. It was almost like nerves, you'd think.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, when he heard that ring, he jumped up and he had one last bit of adrenaline and was gone. Dang. So I listened to my father-in-law and I took off walking, you know, where I last seen him. And now we're getting to where, you know, this is a new property. I ain't been on it very much. We're getting in territory I ain't been in. So I don't even know which direction to go after I last seen him, because it goes into like a real thicket with some standing corn, some draws to the other way. So I get up there where I seen him. I just stop. I see one deer take off, and it took off with its tail up. So I knew it wasn't him. And I heard some leaves shuffling. I look and I see a rat. So I just bolted over there to it. And it was him. He was falling down again. And I mean, this time once he fell, I mean, he expired in about a minute. So I was like, man, finally, you know, finally get to put my hands on a deer that I dreamed of. Yeah. You know. So
oh my gosh.
The worst part about it was he ran 100 yards deeper in the woods, and I had to drag him out even farther.
Man, what a roller coaster though.
Oh,
like
man.
To watch it go down, to get down, get pictures, send pictures. Like that would be so confusing on the other end. Like your brother-in-law or your brother to get a message like, hey, can you help me drag this deer out? Never mind, he's gone. I can only imagine what he's thinking. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And then I was also thinking, man, I don't want to call this dog again,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't want, I'd trust the dog. If I ever needed a dog, I'd trust it. And I'm like, it's daylight. I want to keep looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, if I had a dog, I would bring my dog in right away just for the experience. A lot of people like watching the dogs work, and I think I would too. But I'm the same way. I don't typically back out. If I shoot, it's because I'm confident that I can kill this animal with one shot. And yeah, I had one bad encounter this year where I put a shot on a deer and it was so close. And all I can think is that the angle, because of how close it was to my tree stand, I messed up on that. But I tracked that one right away. I was like, I thought I heard it crash like within 15, 20 seconds, but I couldn't see. So I went and I'm like, man, it's got to be right here. I know I heard it crash, and we're looking and looking and looking, couldn't find it. End up bumping it 45 minutes later and had to put another arrow in it. I put an arrow in it at like 3 feet. It was in standing beans. I was shooting almost straight down onto this thing. I had bumped it and then it collapsed in the beans, shot it again, and then it went 10 yards. But I have a really hard time not going after one right away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know a lot of people will frown on that, but it's just what I've always done, and it's always worked out.
Well, I think there's two sides to every story too. Like, so some people say, let them lay, a dead deer goes nowhere. But my side of the story is keep that heart pumping. If he's bleeding, keep that heart pumping and make him bleed out.
Yeah.
That 196 I shot 3 years ago actually hit him in the neck, and he was bleeding. And same thing, like you said, I thought I heard him go down, so instantly I went after him, and where I thought I heard him go down, he actually just ran through a brush pile.
Okay.
Long story short, I ended up seeing him about 100 yards off, and he was just kind of limping along. Well, I didn't want to take my eyes off of him, so I just kept staying behind him and stayed behind him and stayed behind him, and finally watched him, lay down, and I just sat there until he expired.
So you got a 196 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
176 earlier this season.
Yep.
Then you shot, what did you say it was, a 140?
Yeah, 140 10s.
And then what, did you tape this one out right away?
I didn't right away because just as a Sunday evening, I'll be working Monday morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I taped them out yesterday and I got 168.
Jeez, what a season.
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you had, what is that, a 450-inch season?
Yeah.
Gosh. I can't imagine. I've had a couple really good years, I will say that. Never shot a monster whitetail. I've been in places where I should have been able to, just not managed the right way. I'm hoping in the coming years I can really start targeting big mature bucks. Even this year, I passed up on a lot of deer just because I want them to grow. And I saw a 180-inch deer early last year and never had a trail camera picture, never saw him again, just like one sighting of him on the hoof, though, in the morning.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow, like he's around here. He obviously is. He's running through the bean field in front of me at 350 yards. So I know we've got great potential out here. And I've seen some deer that are like 3.5-year-old 170s on trail camera. Like 24-inch wide, 12, like typical 12 point in velvet. And I'm like, dude, this is going to be the biggest buck I've ever seen, But same thing, like what you were saying about that other property that you hunted, you'd get them in the summer, you'd get them in velvet, and then they just disappear. And I've got every buck in the area on camera every night throughout the summer in the bachelor groups, all coming in front of my cameras. They'll make a circuit and they'll hit like 4 different cameras of mine. So it's like I can see, oh, look at this. At 12:05 a.m., they're at this one. Then at 12:20, they're at this one. Then at 1 o'clock. And as soon as they shed that velvet, they're gone, man.
It's crazy. I had a deer last year, a big double beam buck, huge buck. I don't know what he scored. Neighboring guy ended up getting him, but I originally seen this deer from the road just country cruising. Didn't have any binoculars, but I seen he's a monster. And he ran into the property I had permission to hunt. So instantly I grabbed 3 cameras. Actually, I think I grabbed 4 cameras and just put them all over the place. I'm like, I just want to get a picture. Well, it wasn't a week. I had a picture of this deer. He was just I bet he scored probably in the 180s. He had he had a double beam on one side, just massive, old. Started talking to a few neighbors. There's one neighbor who talked about him, said he'd been getting his pictures for 3 or 4 years, and he's always had that double main beam. So I'm like, man, this deer's like 7 years old. And this is the first year I've ever seen him or gotten pictures of him. So he's like, he's venturing out. You know, it's like, I don't know why he's moving away from his home territory. So once I confirmed, you know, he's a monster, I switched all my I waited for a storm to come through so I can go in there scent free, made my shooting lanes, changed all my cameras out from regular cameras to cell cams, and got out there and stayed out.
Yep.
I was getting pictures of this deer every single day in daylight through probably mid-August all the way through September.
When does your season open there?
October 1st.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
So every single day, every time of day, 6 a.m., 9:30 a.m., 11:30 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m. No night pictures. Every single one of them is daytime.
What the heck?
I'm like, I told my boss, I said, hey, I'm leaving. October 1st was a Thursday that year, and I work Monday through Thursday. I said, I'm leaving early Thursday. Like, I'm going to kill this deer opening day.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I can. And so I left early that day and got in the stand. I hunted Thursday, Friday, Saturday, evenings only. 3 days in a row, never laid eyes on that deer. Stopped getting pictures, just gone.
Oh no.
Like, you know, I've never thought I could pattern a deer or ever even think. I never thought I'd kill a mature buck October 1st from trail cam experience. I was like, when you're getting pictures every single day at all times of the day, I'm like, I'm in his living room.
Yeah.
I'm hunting his bedroom, you know. But I only ended up getting one daylight picture during the season. It was October 15th, and I was at work, and it was when a strong cold front came through. And that's the last daytime picture I got of him. He ended up getting shot like late November, early December during second gun season.
Okay.
So,
dude, it's crazy to me that bucks like that can survive and never be seen. Like, I mean, trail camera pictures are one thing, but like, there's bucks like that are out there. Even where I hunt in Wisconsin, I tell people all the time, I'm like, there's 200-inch deer within a mile and a half of us that may have never been seen by a human.
yeah.
And the fact that they can just hide like that, they know where they're safe. They might hang out in a 1/4 acre area for a year straight. I mean, it just kind of blows your mind, the potential that's out there that we don't even understand.
Oh, and that's why I hunt those 4-acre patches.
Yep.
That's their safe zone.
Yeah, if you can get in on a small patch like that. I mean, where we're at, we've got 20 acres. I've had a big buck on camera. It's an 8-point, but it's a tank. I mean, he's outside his ears, super tall, super heavy. And I know he's around here. I bet you at all times I'm within a 1/4 mile of him. And I just can't seem to pick him out. I mean, like, I'll put cameras out everywhere and I'll get one picture of him. He'll be walking towards my other cameras and I only have one picture of him. And I'm like, dang it, this is so ridiculous. I got him on camera right behind my shed. Like, we live in a shop house.
Yeah.
And I got him. He was on my archery range. I've got a shooting lane through the orchard, and I put a camera on one of the orchard trees, and he was in my shooting lane at like 75 yards while I was in here sleeping. I mean, he's here, but he's so elusive. I just can't seem to get eyes on him.
I have a buck I've been following. I named him Ribcage. A lot of people around here know that when I talk about Ribcage, they know the deer I'm talking about. I picked up, actually, when I hunted the double beam buck, I seen this buck on October 1st, right at dark. And at first I thought it was the double beam buck, but ended up not being. But he was a nice deer, probably 140s, but it was right at dark. He just looked big. Ended up picking up both the sheds this spring. So I got a matching set, and it's pretty heavy. So instantly I knew, I'm like, I'm going to try to get trail cam pictures of this deer this year. And same thing, same spot as the double beam buck. I put a camera up, started getting his velvet pictures. He blew up into maybe a 160s 10 point with trash everywhere. I'm just like, and I know this deer's young, like 3.5, 4.5 at the oldest, but I'm still staying 3.5 because his 2.5-year-old body was pretty small.
Yeah.
They're like, everybody's like, when are you gonna shoot rib cage? When are you gonna shoot rib cage? And I'm like, I'm not gonna hunt it. What do you mean you're not gonna hunt it? I'm like, he's up to 10. He blew up from last year. I mean, he was 130s last year. Now he's 160. What can he do next year?
If he has one more year like that, man.
Yeah, one more year like that. I got both the sheds. But I mean, it's not even that I wouldn't hunt him. He usually disappears around October and don't come back until the end of the season. He'll come back maybe late December, January, and he'll winter there. And that's how I got his sheds. You know, he's been every day last year. And I was like, they're like, well, can I come hunt him? I'm like, no, you can't come hunt him. I'm like,
that is the dumbest question to ask a hunter. Like,
yeah.
You've got a future target buck. Can I come shoot him now? Like, no, if I was going to let someone, I'd be the one to shoot it.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm like, you know, I'm going to see if I can get his sheds again this year. And it may be a thing where I never kill. I mean, I don't have to kill a deer.
Yeah.
I got a 6.5-year-old deer that I've been watching for 4 years that I'm not going to say I could kill him. I ain't hunted him, but I don't want to. I pick up his sheds almost every year. You know, I got sheds and sheds and sheds of this deer. And if I ever kill him, it's like, I ain't going to get his sheds anymore. Yeah. But he's not a giant, though. I mean, he's a 6.5-year-old, 150-inch 10 point, pretty massive. He's actually like, it's been going downhill. Like his biggest rack was when he was a 3.5-year-old, which is really strange.
Jeez. Yeah. That is odd.
I passed him twice as a 3.5-year-old thinking, you know, this deer's going to be a giant. And he never did take that step. Unlike ribcage, you know, that's taking a huge step. And if he comes, you know, if he survived, I assume he's alive. Last picture I got was November 5th at night. But so I put a camera, I just started doing videos on trail cams. I don't know, I guess wanted to save battery life. We always did photo, but I started doing videos this year. And every video of this deer I got, even in the summer, he sneaks in everywhere he goes. Like this deer never moves fast. And I got videos of him where he'll flinch. Like, I don't know if he's hearing something in the woods, but this deer is the most cautious deer that I've ever seen. So I have no doubt he's alive. Yeah. Because like I said, I don't know where he goes. I don't know anybody else that even talks about getting trail cam pictures of him. Like nobody else talks about this deer but me. And I just have to assume he's alive. He's very cautious for whatever reason. You know, even when I seen him like that October 1st last year, like we had eye contact, and maybe I trained him. Maybe from then on, he's like, hey, this ain't a safe world or something. Yeah. I don't know. But jeez, I've never seen like deer, like usually deer in summertime, they know it's safe, you know? Yeah. But this deer, he's just cautious. He moves like, it's just crazy. I bet you I have 20 videos of this deer. You know, they're on 10 seconds because that's all that camera will let me do. Yep. But he moves so slow, like real slow. And even
those are the ones that sneak up on you. Like one day, if you do catch up with him, you might be sitting there and he's like just underneath you out of nowhere. Oh yeah. Those deer drive me crazy. They really do. Because I love the anticipation and hearing the crunch, and you're just like, that's a big body. Like I know something's coming. And then like the slow head turn. I've gotten surprised by deer more this year, and I don't know how, but they'll be 5 yards when I first see them. The buck I shot in Wisconsin this year, 20 yards. First time I saw him, I mean, we're talking like a foot of oak leaves on the ground in the middle of the timber. You could hear a squirrel at 300 yards in there. And all of a sudden, this buck is literally standing at 20 yards. And I was like, dude, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, who knows, man? He might just show up out of nowhere.
Oh, he could. Yeah. And the one, so I got a video of him November 5th at night, and he just stood there. The whole video. That's all he did. He just stood there. I'm like, man, this deer never runs. I mean, he might just be lazy. I don't know. But yeah, he's very cautious. I have no doubt that he's going to show. Yeah, it's December 14th. I think last year he showed up about around Christmas time, after basically most of the hunting's done. Some people are still hunting, but not very many.
Yeah.
So hopefully he shows up here soon. I put a camera right where he was bedded last year, basically the same spot I was getting pictures of him all winter. That's how I knew I'd get his sheds, because he was there almost every day.
Yeah. Man, hopefully you can get sheds again this year and see what he turns into next year.
Oh, yeah.
I want that so bad. I want to have a property where they winter, where I can find sheds year after year, build history. I haven't had a ton of deer that I've been able to build like a yearly history with. There's been a few, none of them have blown up, but the one here on the property I live on, he's probably the closest one to that. And he was a really nice 8-point last year. And he just, nothing changed about his rack, except if you were to like zoom in on your phone, like imagine that, like his rack is exactly the same as it was last year. But then imagine just like 2 fingers opening, zooming in on your phone, and he gained everywhere without adding any extra points.
Yeah. I'm a son of 8s too. So
oh yeah. I've been after a lot of big 8s out here, and it's just tough, man. I get my hopes up every year. I just like put everything else in the back of my mind, like, oh yeah, that's right. They don't stay here throughout the year. Like they always go across the road and you don't ever see them again until the following year. And it doesn't matter. One trail camera picture, and in my mind, this deer's already dead. Like I'm very optimistic when I get out in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy getting their picture just as much as the hunting.
Yep.
That's just like picking up their sheds. If I can get his antlers without killing him, I don't know if I'd ever kill him,
Yeah.
Get the antlers.
I joke with friends. I'm like, I would start a deer farm just to collect antlers. Like there's something about having a pile of antlers. When I moved all my stuff to my buddies this last week, I had a pile. He's got like this kegerator, like a refrigerator for kegs. And on top, I just had all of these antlers piled up. I mean, from deer that I had shot and just chopped the antlers off, like didn't do a Euro mount, sheds that people have found. And I was like, this is just the coolest thing. I mean, this is like a treasure chest to me.
Yeah.
If I could have a whole wall of these, or have a buck that is 7.5 years old living in a pen, and I go and pick up his bases that you can't put your fingers around. I don't know, man. There's something about antlers. I can't get over it.
Me neither. It drives me nuts. Like I said, I've tried to get away from it where I wasn't so addicted. And I think the more I get away from it, it just draws me in more. It's just, I mean, everybody's addicted to something.
Yep.
I'm addicted to antlers. Like you, I'm addicted to antlers. I think it'd be cool to pick up a sheds off a deer for 3 or 4 years and mount every year that he was, and you eventually kill him, mount every year he was you got a sheds, and that'd be cool to display on a wall, I think.
Man, I got to go and talk with a guy in Buffalo County, Wisconsin, and his name's Tom. He's been doing an outfitting service there for 40 years, I think. You should see the inside of his cabin. He'll have the same buck sheds for 7 straight years, and then have the shoulder mount of him up on the wall. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's got pictures, literally millions and millions of pictures. He said he gets 10,000 pictures a week, and he has to go through. I mean, he's got like 350 trail cameras out. He's got, I don't remember how many hundred stands out. And some of these bucks, the coolest one, you can't hunt albinos in Wisconsin, but he's got an albino on camera, and I can't remember. It's either 7.5. I know this is a big spread. It's either 7.5 or 11.5. And he's had pictures of it every year since it was a fawn. And you got to go check him out. I think his website is Bluff Country Outfitters, and he's got all of these different pictures on it. It's a cool setup. And I'm like, man, I just want that. Even if it was 20 acres, give me 20 acres where I've got a couple deer that I get to document all throughout the year and all throughout the years. And I'd be a happy man.
Dude, that guy's living the dream.
He
And
is.
that's what really, I keep telling my wife, and I'm like, I got to find a job that has something to do with hunting,
Yep.
anything. If we didn't live in such a small town, or if we had a Cabela's, I'd work at Cabela's, just to be there. I got a really good job. I'm very fortunate, but has nothing to do with hunting.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I've always thought about trying to be like a land management specialist or something like that, where I go help people plot out their lands, put food plots in, do hinge cutting, show them where to put stands, hang cameras. But also, I've heard a lot of people say, don't turn your passion into your job or you'll start to hate it. And I'm like, I could see it. I love talking about hunting. And so the podcast, I was like, that's a natural deal for me. But there are times where I'm like, dang, man, I've got like 7 podcasts to record this week. Once I get into the middle of them, it's great. But in thinking about it ahead of time, I'm like, I hope this doesn't ruin anything for me. Like long term, I want to still be able to talk about it, be passionate about it, and not have it hinder my view of hunting or fog my view of hunting at all.
You got to make time for hunting too.
Oh yeah, I know. Next year, I'm going to hit it hard. This year, it seemed like every opening day of anything, I was on a trip somewhere, visiting family. We had an appointment or something like that. And so next year, I'm like wiping the whole fall schedule or calendar and just hunting the whole time. So, well, man, I don't want to take up a whole lot more of your time. I know we're over an hour. Before we hop off, I want to give you a chance to share. I know you mentioned your TikTok earlier. Are there any other platforms that people can find you on?
No, not really. I mean, I'm just not big into too much. I mean, obviously I have a Facebook page, which is just kind of a personal page, has nothing to do with hunting.
Okay.
My TikTok is 90% hunting.
Nice.
I do a lot of, like I said, I post a lot of my videos that I've been getting the bucks on there. Rib cage is on there. Talk about rib cage.
Sweet.
There's a few videos of the double beam buck on there. And obviously the buck I just shot, I filmed me walking up to him. So yeah, I mean, TikTok's about the only thing that has really taken off. I mean, I'm at like 7,200 followers, which ain't huge, but it's more than I ever dreamed.
Oh yeah, no, that's great.
I posted a video before the rut that I actually filmed last year of a buck running through the woods. They got 2.5 million views.
Jeez.
I'm like, it's a small buck running through the woods, but for some reason, people started commenting, people started liking, and I think it was because it was before the rut. And people are like, hey, where's this at? Where's this buck chasing? And that took off. And that's really where I got most of my followers. And, I've just been posting, basically trail cam pics and videos.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of rope scrapes where people hang a rope.
Oh yeah.
I got a lot of videos on my TikTok of that.
Oh, nice.
Those are awesome.
So you do that?
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
What I mean, did you find like a 200% increase on like activity or scraping, or what? I mean, what drew you to it and what success have you seen with it?
So I just started them last year, and at first, the first one I hung up, I started getting pictures of deer just coming up, putting their nose on it, and just walking by it, just kind of scent checking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, So this year I started hanging them everywhere. I mean, just everywhere I had a camera, I had a rope. Well, I learned really quick that it's not that simple. Location's the number one thing. Location. Got to be where go buy it and see it and find it. Number 2, time. So I hung one last year, and this year it was my best one because it had been there for so long. They know it's there. Yeah. So I'm getting, and the reason I do it, it's not attractive. It's not going to attract deer, but it stops them. How many blurry pictures of bucks do you get? And you're like, man, is that a shooter? You can't. This rope stops them, and you get the perfect picture. Like I said, now I put it on video, and you get bucks. Well, I got a picture of that 198-inch deer that got shot early. I got a picture of him playing with it. To see a mature buck playing with a rope is pretty cool. I mean.
Yeah.
But I got bucks. They bite it and they pull on it, and they put their antlers in it, and they go back and forth. I mean, it's just really cool. I got bobcats swinging at it. They're playing with it. I got coons climbing the ropes. I mean, it's neat. I mean, I just say, find a travel corridor where they travel. Put that rope right by where they're traveling. They cannot walk by it without stopping. They can't.
Yeah.
They stop.
So you're putting it near travel corridors, not necessarily where there's already like a rubber scrape.
Correct. Yeah. I've put some where there's scrapes, but I mean the deer are already there. I mean it's not attracting them. It's stopping them is all it's doing.
Nice. No, that's brilliant, because I get a lot of deer moving quickly through like the back path behind my orchard. They'll come through and it's just like, man, I wish I would have got him to stop. And I've just got like I buy the cheapest trail cameras you've ever seen. I'm like, man, I could buy like that $200 trail camera, or I could buy 5 of these ones off Amazon. And I always just go the cheap route and throw them out. But that's smart, just to have something that stops them, even though, like you said, it doesn't attract them. If I can just get them to stop, even the crappy cameras, I can get decent pictures on.
But you can stop them, and then you can stop them right where you want them. If you want if you got a cheap camera and that deer needs to be 5 feet from it, you put that rope 5 feet from the camera. You bring them to the camera.
Yeah.
So I didn't say I said I wasn't attractive, but if that deer's within 10 feet, you can bring them in. You can bring them even closer to your camera and get that perfect picture.
Yeah, and that would be cool too, to see all of the different types of wildlife interacting with it.
Oh,
I followed this page for a while. I can't remember the name of it, but all it was a log. It was a log going across a creek, and I think it was in Montana. And the guy would post every picture that he got of wildlife on his trail camera that just faced this like natural bridge for animals to cross. He had wolves, black bears, mountain lions, lynx, otters, turkey. Then he had like sandhill cranes and wood ducks in the water. He had grizzly. I mean, like everything. And I'm like, this is just cool to have a camera set up and you're picking all this stuff up. And yeah, I feel like a rope would be a totally unique way to do that.
Oh yeah. And that's why I started putting my cameras on video, because it's just that much better than a picture. I mean,
yeah.
He's so much more.
Well, man, I really do appreciate you hopping on with me. I had a great time chatting. Awesome success. Congratulations on all your success this year. And we're going to have to keep in touch and maybe get together and do a hunt sometime. I won't come blow up your 4-acre plot, but it sounds like you've got quite the area that you're hunting in with all the big buck activity. I mean, even to shoot 190 and then see another one, like that's amazing.
Yeah, and those two are on the same. Crazy. I am very where I live, and like I said, I started out. So when I was a kid, I hunted a certain area. When I got married, we moved about 20-30 miles. So I had to get, it was a restart. So I just went to every door, said, "Hey, you got any hunting ground?"
Yep.
There's a lot of no's, but guess what? There's a few yeses, and a few of those yeses turned out to be amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and then I just purchased my first 40-acre patch this year.
Nice.
I haven't got on it because, like I said, I didn't have time to do trail cams or anything like that. So I don't even have a deer stand on my own property.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can honking in the background. But,
oh yeah, no, you're good.
But yeah, I didn't even hunt my own 40 acres yet. I mean, I've been there a couple times. I got a blind there, but I'm not big on hunting blinds. I want to be up in the tree and be able to see. So
yeah,
I mean, that's where our house is going next year. So I'm hoping. And there again, I don't want to kill deer right on my backyard, so I may never hunt there.
Dang.
I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, to have like a back porch where you can just go sit and watch deer moving around.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a walkout basement with a wraparound porch, and I'm gonna post. That's another thing I'm gonna do on my TikToks. I'm gonna post the stages of the house being built.
Oh, cool.
I'll probably post. This is gonna be my first place where I can just go in and do what I want. Food plot, hinge cut. I've never got to really do that. I mean, this is my 40 acres that I get to experiment, I guess.
That's the dream, man.
Imagine the rope scrape I'm gonna have there.
Oh yeah.
I've honestly already picked out the perfect spot. So
that's awesome. Man, well, again, congrats. I really do appreciate you hopping on, and good luck throughout the rest of the season. Let's keep in touch, though. I want to keep hearing all your stories.
Good luck to you. You still going to grind it out the rest of the season?
I am, man. I was hoping to go out the past couple of days, and like I said yesterday, I just felt like I got hit by a truck, and I've been like just passed out in bed all day today. So
don't get out there and cough like I did.
Well, it sounds like it works actually. So maybe I will.
Somehow it did, but crazy.
No, I'm hoping throughout this week I can get out a bunch. I think we have till January 15th. And so I think I'm going to be in town almost every day between now and then. So I'll try to get out and see if I can catch deer moving back to their pre-rifle season patterns.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Especially on a good cold front. We get some cold weather.
I know. It's been so hot here. I'm talking like 60s, 70s. I don't get it.
Yeah, I wasn't hunting that.
No, I hate sweating in a tree stand. I hate sweating, period. I'd much rather it be like single digits than 50 even.
For sure.
Well, sweet, man. I'll keep you up to date. Hopefully I've got some success and some cool stories, and I'm excited to watch your TikTok. So
all right, sounds good, man.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, see you.